Yeah, you can go down a little bit. Yeah, then after host ID, host, place, host and placement group.
Host and placement group. We will
Down,
discuss
down,
about placement group.
down,
Down.
down. Yeah, the host ID, host resource group name.
Host ID, host resource,
Yeah,
affinity, tenancy. Okay, you are asking out these things.
yeah,
Okay, we will discuss about this placement group, and I will check the what is the affinity because there is nothing is shown here.
yes. I mean, I
Oh,
know maybe I'm asking something more.
no, no, no. Actually, you just you may forget many things. What we discuss now, you may forget many things. You can for now you can just practice and just understand what is the service is.
Okay. And I have one more question here. The elastic IP address you told.
Yes,
Uh,
elastic IP address means that is fixed. Suppose for a instance, suppose for a instance, if you stop and start, your
yeah.
IP will be deallocated to the pool, right?
Yes.
So your public IP will be lost. And in that case, you have to just suppose you want your IP should be fixed forever. You have
Uh-huh.
to allocate one elastic IP, then that charging is different. We will discuss that elastic IP.
Yeah. I mean, my question here is why would someone want to reserve that particular IP address and what?
See, suppose you are like you are launching one service and you have given that IP to someone. Okay, this is my IP and you can check here this service, right?
Okay.
And suppose you stop and start, and again you have to give again to that person, and you have to change in many areas like their source code or maybe in their configuration file. So to prevent that, you can use your elastic IP.
Oh, understood.
Right? We can start now,
Yeah, sure.
and after 45 minutes we can discuss.
Okay. Okay.
Next is EC2 instance termination. What is EC2 instance termination? So by default, EBS root volumes that is created automatically when the instance is launched are deleted automatically when the EC2 instance is terminated. So when you running one EC2 instance and you are terminated one EC2 instance, your volume, your EBS volume will be get terminated, get deleted automatically. This is the default option. Suppose you want to keep your volume, keep your storage for future use, you can also there is a option instance termination so that your EBS volume will not be deleted automatically. That EBS volume will be kept in your AWS account. So any additional volumes attached to the instance, those you attach to the instance during launch letter by default persist after the instance is terminated. Additional volumes is persist. You can modify both behavior by modifying the delete and termination attribute by the EBS volume during instance launch or while running. So while running also you can change, and while you are creating your EC2 instance, you can choose this option delete and termination. So I'll show you. So while you are creating, next, next, here, delete on termination. If you select this is by default selected. If this is by default selected, when you terminate your instance, this volume will be deleted automatically from your AWS account. But if you want your volume should be there for future use, you can deselect this, right? Next is EC2 termination protection. This is a feature you can enable such that EC2 instance is protected against accidental termination through API, console, or CLI. Suppose you have created one EC2 instance and you want that this should not be accidentally terminated by someone. You may be you are not only the person in your company. Maybe 100 people are working for a same account, and you have created one EC2 instance, and you understand that that EC2 instance is very important, and this should not be deleted either accidentally or maybe known to anybody. This should not be deleted or by your API or your CLI or your console, right? For that, you need to enable this termination protection. So this can be enabled for instance store backed and EBS backed instances. So CloudWatch can only terminate EC2 instances if they do not have the termination protection enabled. So let me show you the option. Sorry. So here somewhere in the option networking, instance setting. Yeah, here maybe you can find. Yes, change termination protection, enable. So if you enable this, I cannot terminate this. If I terminate this, it will show error. See, fail to terminate instance because it may not be terminated. Modify to disable this option. So I need to disable this. So accidentally no one can terminate my instance because I enable that option. So if I want to terminate means I have to disable first. So to prevent from accidentally deletion, we need to enable this, right? EC2 IAM roles. In general, for an AWS services to have permission to read or write to another service, an IAM role is required to be attached to the first AWS service with rights permissions on the second AWS service. In AWS account, this is important point. In AWS account, in any resource, if it want to access to another resource, they need some permission. So suppose my virtual machine want to access any database server or maybe another SQL service, maybe other services. So EC2 instance needs some permission. So that permission will be given from IAM. So that is the IAM role. You have to create one IAM role and provide some set of permissions so that your EC2 can access other service, other AWS service. So without that, your EC2 instance cannot access other AWS services. So drawing on that EC2 instance to have access to other AWS service, for example S3, you need to configure an IAM role, which will have an IAM policy attached under the EC2 instance. So application on the EC2 instance will get this role permission from the EC2 instance metadata. You can add an IAM to the EC2 instance during or after one is launched. So let me show you. You need to add one IAM role. Suppose your EC2 instance need to access to other services, then some set of permission is required. That permission will given through IAM role. Here is the IAM role, right? And currently there is no IAM role provided. So to provide that, you can provide one IAM role instance. This is yes, security and action network change instance setting. Okay, security, sorry. Modify IAM role. So here you can give some IAM role. So currently I am having some IAM role. I have created some IAM role, EC2 instance IAM role. So I have, if I give this IAM role, then my EC2 instance having some permissions. So I can show you what is the permissions here. We'll go details in IAM. Don't worry. what is this role? Security ECS instance role. If I saw this ECS instance role, so this having some permissions to access like EC2. This permission is given: ECS create cluster, EC2 describe tags, logs to capture logs. This permission is given. So this operation only can be performed from your EC2 instance. No other permissions. Only the listed permission will be happen. EC2 Bastion host. So Bastion host is a concept. Okay, let me discuss. For inbound secure and connectivity to your VPC to manage and administrator public and private EC2 instances, you can use a Bastion host or a jump box. So this is a concept. Suppose you are having some private EC2 instances, a set of private EC2 instances, and you want to connect those. In the VPC chapter, we will discuss in detail what is private subnet, what is public subnet. So in the private subnet, you cannot access from internet, from outside your AWS environment. So to connect all those environments, one EC2 called Bastion host will be provided. That instance will be in public subnet, and you will connect to that public instance, that Bastion host, and from that instance, you will connect to your private instances. You can say your Bastion host will be some mediator between your private subnet and you. The Bastion host is a EC2 instance whose interface will be a security group allowing, like your inbound will be, you have to open your inbound for for your IP address or maybe for public, right? And you will access this Bastion host, and from the Bastion host you will connect to your private subnet instances. EC2 instance purchasing options. So there are many types of EC2 instance purchasing option is there. One is reserve instance. Reserve instance means reserve instance price is very less in comparison to on demand. What we have what I have shown you in a demo, they all are on demand instances, and their price is high. But if you take the reserve instances, you have some commitment of 1 or 3 years of commitment, so that you are just buying for 1 year or buying for 3 years your compute capacity. So you have to pay for that. Maybe upfront purpose instances capacity for a recurring schedule. You are just purchasing, and you are just reserving those instances for either 1 year or 3 year. And for that, AWS will give you the discount in case you have reserved and you have not used that. But in that case also you have to pay for that reservation. Next is spot instances. Spot instance means your request AWS unused instances, unused EC2 instances, and this is high saving, but there is no guarantee. So anytime AWS can take that instances. Spot instance, if you see, spot instance price is very less in comparison to your reserve instance and on demand instance. But there is no like guarantee. So maybe sometime AWS will take that instance from you. For a temporary, like suppose you want to do some temporary compute, like your data analysis or some data processing, in that case you can take the spot instances. Dedicated host. So pay for a fully dedicated physical host. So suppose your company want some dedicated physical host, they can also buy dedicated hosts. Dedicated instances. Pay by the hour for your instance that run on a single tenant hardware. So your dedicated instances that is run in a single tenant hardware. Other companies will not interfere that hardware, means they will not use, only your company will use that hardware. So no other companies instance will be share your hardware. That is dedicated instance. Next is on demand. On demand instance is pay for the second for instance that you launch. So on demand instance is like their price is high, and whenever you want you can also shut down, and whenever you require you can also take. So most flexible one is the on demand, but price is high. Next is EC2 instance metadata. So what is instance metadata? This is instance data that you can use to configure or manage the instance. Example are your IPv4 address, IPv6 address, your DNS host names, your AMI ID, your instance ID, your instance type, your host name, public key, security group, everything will be your metadata, data of your EC2 instance. Configuration of your EC2 instance, that is instance metadata. Metadata can be only viewed from within the instance itself. So from the instance, you can view the your metadata. By encryption, anyone that has access to your instance can view this data. So let's see the data using some command. So using your metadata, right? So I can call this command 1 minute. Connect. So I'm connecting using from the browser instead of putty. You can also connect from browser. So I need to see the metadata, right? Yes. See, if you run this, if you call this command, call is a command to see the URL, see URL. You can say command URL, right? Like you can see, you can copy this here. Control V. You can see this data from your browser, right? And similarly, you can use this call command from a command line. This is the command line URL, you can say. And if I call this, if I request this, I can see this information like AMI ID, your AMI launch index, your AMI manifest files, so host name, so many things are there, right? Suppose I want to see the host name, I can type host name, HOST. This is my host name, IP 172, this one. And also if I want to see the instance ID, I can see also. And this is my instance ID. I can see from the console also. And this is my instance ID. This is my instance ID, right? So why you require this? Suppose you are doing some programming, or maybe your application is reading something, and in your source code may require some information about your instance, some metadata from your instance. In that case, you will use this URL and request some get request to get those details. Here is the list of metadata. Next is instance user data. What is instance user data? This is a data supplied by the user at instance launch in the form of a script to be executed during the instance boot. So while you are creating one instance or launching one instance and you need some commands to be run from your instance, and while booting it, instead of, suppose you want to run some script after you launching instance and you want that the same script should be run before while you launching one instance, you can also provide that in the user data section. User data is limited to 16 kilobyte. User data can only be viewed from within the instance itself, right? You can change user data. To do so, there is the option instance action, instance setting, view change user data. So I'll show you. User data is not protected by encryption. So this data is not encrypted. So don't include any passwords or any sensitive information in your user data. You are not charged for request to read user data or metadata. So let me show you where is the instance user data. Sudhir, you may use this instance user data. Cancel.
Say that again.
You might have used this. You might have practiced this
I think
instance user data.
all these UIs has been changed, so now
Instance.
I can't remember exactly what it is.
Okay, okay. Edit user data. Okay, I need to stop this instance. So you can provide some uh, commands, some scripts here. So for that you need to stop, so that when you start again, those commands will be run. So commands may be just configuring one web server or configuring some software or installing some software or updating your OS. Those commands you can provide in that user data section. Enhanced networking on Linux. So enhanced networking uses a single root IO virtualization. Single root, it may comes in question in the your exam, in your certification exam. This is actually coming. One question may come in enhanced networking. So NS networking uses single root input output virtualization, SRIO we can say, to provide high performance networking capability on supported instance type. So that this will be this will be applicable for supported instance type. Some high end instances is supported for that. So in the NS networking, your communication will be very faster. SRIOB is method of device virtualization that provides higher IO performance, input output performance, and lower CPU utilization when compared to traditional virtualized network interfaces. So enhanced networking provides higher bandwidth, higher packet per second, consistently lower inter-instance latencies. So your latency means your communication time, you can say. Latency means, suppose I send a request to one instance and get one response. That time you can say latency. For this enhanced networking, your latency will be lower, your bandwidth will be higher, and your packet per second will be also performance will be very faster. There is no additional change for using enhanced networking. Placement groups. So when you launch a new EC2 instance, the EC2 service attempt to place the instance in such a way that all your instances are spread out across underlying hardware to minimize correlated failures. Right. You can use placement groups to influence the placement of groups of interdependent instances to meet the needs of your workload. So depending on the type of workload, you can create placement groups using the following placement strategies. So clusters. So you can create inside a cluster, or partitions, spread logical partitions, or spread distinct hardware. See, this is up to your requirement. Your requirement, suppose, let me explain. Suppose you are having your requirement is to launch some 5 EC2 instances, and your requirement is my instance should be their communication should be faster, right? So what you can do, you can use this cluster inside one AG, so that your all the instances will be on the same hardware or same host, right? So in the same host your communication will be faster, but one problem is if your host fail, your all the EC2 instance will be fail, right? And another option is you can spread in distinct hardwares, like your virtual machine will be in distinct hardwares, like your first virtual machine in one host, second in another host, third in another host. In that way your communication may be slower, but if any hardware fail means you will having like your other EC2 instance will be in working condition, one or two will fail. But in case of first case, your communication will be fast, but there is a chance of fail of other things. And also you can also use this partition spread in logical partitions. So there is some options for placement groups. Placement group means placing your EC2 instances in a group. So this is all about your EC2 service. So if any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we can discuss the questions.
I have a few doubts.
Yes.
So, so about the bastard host you told, does it come under private cloud?
No, no, your Boston host will be in public cloud. In the okay, let me explain.
Public cloud.
Public cloud means public subnet, right? In the VPC, in the networking chapter, we will discuss about public and private cloud. In the private cloud, I will launch some EC2 instances, right?
Okay.
And that will be communicate with each other, but
Uh,
from outside you cannot access.
yes.
And to access outside, suppose you are launch some service and you place some load balancer.
Okay.
That load balancer will connect to your EC2 instance and you can access your load balancer. This is some load balancer. And you can access load balancer from outside. But suppose your admin wants to access these EC2 instances. He cannot, because these instance don't have public IP. And these instance don't have internet gateway connected, so you cannot access directly, right? Suppose your admin wants to access to do some changes to some backend changes or maybe some software update, whatever they want. How they can connect? For to connect this, one concept is a Bastion host. Bastion host means there will be another EC2 instance, another EC2 instance, and this will be in public network. This instance in public network, but same VPC. And this
Uh,
user will connect, the user will connect to this instance.
Sorry, what is VPC again?
VPC I will discuss. VPC is a virtual private cloud,
Cloud. Okay.
and
Yeah.
after EBS I will discuss about VPC.
Yeah.
Okay. And this EC2 instance will be in public subnet, and the user from outside can access this Bastion host, and from the Bastion host they can connect other instances,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
this is just a concept of Bastion host. This is just a public
Okay.
instance, you can say, and we can name it a jump host or Western host, or
Okay.
someone also tell this is a gateway system.
So uh, then also, if through Bastion host we are able to access the instances that is residing in private cloud, then I mean, it doesn't serve the purpose of having the private cloud, right?
No, private cloud means no one can access. Only your admin. See,
Okay.
other people will not access. Your admin is here,
Okay.
and your IP address is whitelist here. Means that doesn't mean it is open to all. Like we
Okay.
are creating our EC2 instance that will access to all. This will not like that. But this will your admin or your IP range is whitelisted here, and use some set of people can access this instance, and from this instance you can connect to other instance,
Okay. Understood.
right?
Yeah.
And also you
And
can restrict, like this instance should only connect to the port 22, not other port, or port maybe port 8080, like that. Also you can also configure some security rule in the security group.
okay. Uh, and what is the difference between reserved and dedicated something?
Reserve instance is you are just committing to AWS to reserve some capacity. Okay, I need 100 CPU for 1 year, or I need 50 CPUs for 3 years. So you are reserving that capacity, and if you reserving, so AWS provide giving you some discount, some 50 to 60% discount for the
Okay.
reservation. So if you are, if you can use or you cannot use, right?
Okay.
If you can use also, they will charge you. They will not give you back your money.
Okay.
But in case of dedicated, suppose I want to use some 1 hour, you can use that 1 hour and shut down. But in case of your reservation, if you shut down, they will charge because you reserve for 1 year or
Okay.
3 years.
Understood. Something rotates that's the user data. Sorry. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
can, yeah,
And I have one more question. Today I was trying to do that Windows EC2 instance, but when I reached to get password, it was not showing there any option.
get password option is not showing.
No, I clicked on get password, but it showed like the password is not available or something.
No, you didn't save the password previously. The
Uh,
same password will work.
like the last time I did HPNP when we created the I created it for the first time. But do I need to create
No, no, no. You
pass?
just go to connect and just retrieve the password, and click here get password. It will ask to browse your pem file, and browse your pem file,
Yeah,
and
that option was not showing. Browse option.
yeah, it will show. Why it will show.
Okay, let me try it again.
You can try again. I'll show you.
PDF
This
automatic.
is the option, cloud exercises. You can refer also this.
Yeah, I was doing it.
Here get password. If you click this, click here,
Yes,
one
yes,
browse
actually
button will
here
come.
that button did not show up actually. Browse button.
No, in RDP client, did you check this RDP client?
Yes, yes.
So it will
Yes, it
definitely
showed
show.
me you have to wait for 4 minutes or something.
Okay,
Then
okay,
I
okay.
waited.
Okay, you have to wait because your instance may not ready at that time. You have to wait for that, and
Yeah,
after some time it will come.
yeah, but I waited for some time, but then still it didn't work. But okay, I can try it again and then I can ask you.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's discuss some a few questions. Uh, which of the following EC2 service can be used without charge under the free tier? Any single EC2 instance type as long as it runs for less than 1 hour per day, or any single EC2 instance type as long as it runs for less than 75 hours per month, a single T2 micro EC2 instance type instance for 70 750 hours per month, or a T2 micro EC2 instance for a total of 750 hours per month?
I think option C.
Any other option? Anyone having? Actually,
Last one, D.
I will recommend one thing. For any questions, read it carefully. Otherwise, see, there will
Okay.
be all options. It looks like very similar,
Yes.
and you may while you are appearing any uh, uh, exam, any certification exam, you have to read it carefully for all options. And
So I
finally,
Is
think
the
one.
is the answer D?
anyone having other option? Yes, option D. Actually, I also discussed many times. So for a free tier account, you will get 750 hours per month for T2 micro EC2 instance. So suppose you run now and shut down, so it will calculate for that time only, maybe 1 hour or 2 hour. So it calculate on that basis.
Mitali, I think you said C. The difference between C and D is C is also correct, but D is best answer because you can have C is
Multiple.
a single. You can have multiple also. At the
Okay.
end, it matters if you don't go beyond 750 hours.
Okay. And
Is it?
if I'll run multiple EC2 instances, will the 750 hours be distributed
A
among the
total of
instances
a
or?
total.
Total.
Let's say you are using two EC2 instances.
Yes.
One is 400 hours and another is 500 hours. That
Okay.
means each of them are less than 750 hours, but a total of how much it is 900 hours. So you will get charged for 150 hours.
Oh, okay. Understood.
Okay, the description
It
is
is
any combination of T2 micro instances can be run up to total 750 hours per month.
okay. Then the instances we are creating, let's say I created one instance and I left it for like 2 3 days, then those many hours gone from my
Yes,
monthly
yes.
hours.
So it is, yeah. So it is recommended that after your practice, you can terminate your instance.
Great, okay. Understood, yeah.
Next is how can you connect a new Linux instance using SSH? Like decrypt your the root password, using a certificate, using the private half of your instance key pair, or using multi-factor authentication. See, question is Linux instance and connection using SSH.
Option D.
Option D. We have not yet started multi-factor authentication. Any other?
Is it?
So I
I
think
think
decrypt the root
you can
password.
use also a certificate. I know that, but not 100% sure. Yeah.
See, I already discussed that to connect one EC2 instance, we need a key pair, one
Keep
private key and one public key. The public key will be at AWS side, and we got the private key. We download the private key. That
it.
PEM file is the private key that we downloaded while creating one EC2 instance, right? That PEM file will use to connect to our Linux EC2 instance. But in case of our Windows, we are using that key pair, that private key to decrypt the password. Any questions here?
So this is we also use this for Windows instance, right?
Yeah, Windows instance, but in Windows, we are decrypting our password. using that private file.
Okay.
Right. And in case of Linux, we are using that PEM file, that PPK file. That is the private half of your instance key pair.
Oh,
One key is that is in AWS side. AWS side means in your EC2 instance.
yeah.
In
Yeah.
your EC2 instance, one key will be there, and in your local, another key will be there. Another pair of key will be there.
Okay. Okay.
So next question is, which of the following must be specified when launching a new EC2 Windows instance? So who things is required while creating one EC2 instance, one Windows EC2 instance while launching? The option is the Amazon EC2 instance ID, password for the admin account, Amazon EC2 instance type, Amazon machine image. You have to
AMI,
choose two options.
two options. Uh,
Amazon machine image.
option D and
Sorry?
And the Amazon machine image.
No, you have to provide two options.
I think option C and D. So yes.
Ankita, are you there? Yes, option C and D. So first option we have to select AMI, and after AMI it asks for EC2 instance type, the instance family like T2 micro or T3 or whatever the instance family. So these options there, and the option A and B will not be there because the Amazon EC2 instance ID created after the launching. When launching, see the question is specified when launching a new Amazon EC2 instance. So this instance ID comes after your launch, and the password also come after your launch. Next is what EC2 instance attribute would allow you to pass a script to instruct the instance to communicate with a certificate server and pass it instance ID once launched. So it basically asks to pass a script, and the options are EC2 tags. This needs to be done manually or through the application after the instance launched, or you can use the user data field to pass on required script, or AMI roles, or you can say IAM roles also. There is no AMI roles.
To pass a script instruct the instance to communicate with a certificate server. Pass its
I think option 4. IA roles.
This is yeah, okay. Sudhir,
Yes, you
No,
can.
I don't know. What EC2 instance attribute would allow you to pass a script to instruct the instance to communicate with a certificate server? This EC2 tags.
actually we today only we discussed this.
Is to be done manually or through an application after that. Is there something like AMI role? I think it is
Okay, maybe this is a mistake. IAM role, I
if
can say. But using IAM role, your EC2 instance like cannot communicate. This is
Right.
a IAM role is some permissions. Okay, my
Okay.
EC2 instance
User
have
data
permission to
field.
connect.
Okay.
But
So,
there should be some instruction in my EC2 instance side to communicate.
so
So when you create an instance, you are creating some kind of key value pair tag. No,
No,
this has to be done.
tag
No,
is
no.
different.
that is something label.
User data field to pass to. Oh, okay. So I remember that user data you tried to copy
Yes,
and that next text box
yes,
was disabled.
yes, that
So
is. So while creating your EC2 instance, that field is there to pass your script, user
Okay,
data.
I understand.